Hey everyone, it's that time of year again. We're talking about my most used decks for late spring, early summer 2021. I'm recording this on the 13th of May and it's my birthday tomorrow. So I've definitely been doing a lot more, I think, personal reflection with my cards personally when it comes to my own spiritual path, kind of looking at my own patterns and why perhaps I'm choosing to repeat something in my experience or relationship with others. And just I don't know, I think around our birthday we all kind of get a little bit more reflective and need some time on our own to kind of understand our story and where we are. So I've definitely been feeling that way this year. And so you'll see that my tarot decks and my oracle decks kind of reflect that. Looking a little bit deeper outside of just surface and, kind of getting into shadow work and inquiry work with the cards has been a lot of my personal focus with tarot. And some of these decks that I'm going to talk about today definitely have made it into client readings. If you've purchased a reading over the last month or so, and you see that one of the decks that I used for you is in this list, you'll definitely know some of these decks have certainly decided to share time and space with others, which has been really nice. But some of them have really just personally been for me. So let's see. Without further ado, I think we will get right into it. So Tarot of Mystical Moments is one of the tarot decks that I've been using a lot, especially in readings for clients over the last month. Now, I've been keeping it stored in the tuck box because honestly, it is so slippery that I can't just like leave it out. I would actually prefer to leave it out right now, but it's just not, it's not going to happen. It's just not a thing. I'm sorry, guys. The sun is coming through the window, which is a good thing for me, but it's going to kind of wash me out here a little bit. So, yeah, so it's a very slippery deck, and that is a problem as far as storing goes because I am someone that likes to leave my cards out when I'm working with them a lot, but I'm adjusting to it. The tuck box is lovely. And what I've found is the imagery is just so beautiful to me that this deck has really felt like very comforting to connect with. And while it is definitely focused on the sacred feminine, it's not exclusively just on the, from a sacred feminine lens, but if you are looking to connect with the goddess, perhaps from more of the Empress or Venus energy, this deck is a really lovely choice for that. It's super sweet, but it's also very clear. I mean, it definitely tells the truth in a reading, and it doesn't sugarcoat things. I love this image. It's an absolutely lovely deck. It's a joy to work with, and it's really pretty. And sometimes, the other decks are pretty intense, I would say. So this is a nice contrast to those. Very much a nice contrast to those. So this is the Tarot of Mystical Moments by Katrin Weltstein. If you're interested in purchasing the deck, I'm going to have a full review soon. I did post a reveal, but I've definitely worked with it enough to understand her lovely personality. It's just an absolutely gorgeous deck. Here's the backing in case you are interested in that, and of course silver foiled edging there, which we are always appreciative of. But if I have one really big drawback is how slippery it is. Like, look, it's just so... the cardstock is a little bit too slippery for me. It's not my sweet spot. So I am having to keep it stored in the tuck box, which again isn't my most favorite thing. Let's see. The Mystical Manga Tarot is also on the list. A lovely, lovely tarot friend of mine gave this to me. She gifted it to me, and I'm so grateful to her. And I'm really, really enjoying working with her. And, while containing the typical, what we would think of as manga, mainstream manga, art. It's also very true to Rider-Waite-Smith, so it's not a deck that's going to be tough to read with. And it's just beautiful. It's really beautiful. And there's a lot of layers that end up coming out in the readings that I've been doing with her. You know, it's more than just a surface deck. It does go beneath the skin, which is really enjoyable. I love this image of the lovers. Isn't that beautiful, guys? I don't know if that's gonna show, but yeah, it's really, really beautiful. And I love this representation of the star here. Here's the Hierophant. So the feel for this one is more than meets the eye. There's the backing. Definitely not as slippery as Mystical Moments, but I would say if you're on the fence about this one, I actually do think it's worth the purchase. I really, really love this deck. I've been having a lot of fun with her. Like I said, she goes beneath the surface. Oh, here's the Hermit. I love this depiction of the Hermit. I don't know if I showed that or not, but isn't that beautiful? Just the artwork is really, really beautiful, and it's another one that, much like Tarot of Mystical Moments, it's just a joy to work with. Like, if you're going to be doing readings a lot, these are two decks that, like, because they're so enjoyable to look at, and because the artwork does offer layers of meaning and understanding, they're really fun to have in the collection. So those two I've really been enjoying working with. And now I'm going to get into more of the like deeper personal work. So this is the Sewin Oracle deck. Oh no, is it Witch of the Seasons? I can't remember the name of this one now, and I left the box downstairs. But I did a reveal of this on the channel recently. If I remember to when I upload this today, guys, I will post a link to this to purchase it on Amazon. Because I can't for the life of me remember it. It's the Sewin one, but it's like Witches of the Seasons, or anyhow, I'll post the link. But I've actually been putting together a Hecate workshop, which has been an experience in and of itself, as they always are. And this deck has been really very much a part of the process. To me, Hecate is really a goddess of witches and for witches. And this deck is, of course, created in that same vein. And I feel like part of the ritual aspects of being a witch, which are illustrated so lovely in this deck, in such a lovely manner in this deck, really speak well to Hecate's energy also, and what building a relationship with her looks like. So this deck I've been really connecting with in regards to crafting this workshop, sitting with what that energy is going to be and how it's going to feel for the participants and for myself holding space in it, for the wisdom that Hecate has to share. And this deck just really beautifully goes along with that. And along with that, you know, it connects you to your craft as well. And I found that and I'll have a full review of this deck on the channel soon, and I will remember the name of the deck by then. But the card spreads at the beginning of the guidebook are also really well crafted too. And so personally, for me, outside of the workshop, working with those spreads for myself is something that's been really, really enjoyable. So this is the Sewin Oracle, which I will post the link to purchase down below since I cannot remember the exact title. But that's been one that's really like felt very connected to Hecate, and also just connected to myself as a witch as well. So now you see I just automatically start shuffling Les Vampires. So I've been using the Les Vampires Oracle a great deal as well in readings, but also for myself. It's funny because I will go a very long time without working with this deck, and then I will just absolutely need this deck. So this is the Les Vampires Oracle by Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Beckett Griffith. I've talked a lot about it on this channel. It's very shadow work friendly, and of course intimately expressing and connected with the myth of vampire and all that that entails historically, but also as Cavendish has channeled the messages from the vampire beings themselves for this deck. And this deck is a super great clarifier in readings. Like, I can't say enough about that. And personally, also, there's a lot of prompts to journal and to journey that comes along with this deck. So if you're looking for a deck that's going to, you know, act as that entry point to help you access those things, this is definitely a deck that's going to help you do deeper shadow work. And that's really along for the ride with that in a very, very positive way. So this is one that's like I have to be in the right place for her medicine, but when I am, this deck really resonates, and it's really been resonating now. It started resonating earlier this year for me, and now it's very, very much like an everyday deck right now, and it's on my main altar at downstairs. So that one's really, really special, and it's one that I've been using a lot. This will not surprise you guys, Alice in Wonderland Oracle, which I really feel like at this point I just need to add to the Isis Oracle and Tarot of Vampires are always on all of these lists. And I think this deck is very much there too. I use this deck as a clarifying deck in readings for clients very, very often. Many of you know that. And personally for myself, I like this deck because she doesn't pull any punches. She's just a straight shooter. She just tells you straight up how it is. She doesn't sugarcoat things. And, you know, sometimes it can be very confronting. It's not necessarily what I want to look at or see or hear or know about myself, but it's always very potent and accurate. And as I said, she's also a really great clarifier to tarot for card spreads. So if you're on the hunt for a good clarifying deck, I think the Le Vampire Oracle, which I just talked about, and Alice in Wonderland Oracle are really, really great options for you. I love this image. There's just no, you just cannot hide from this deck, and sometimes that can feel kind of scary. This is probably my favorite image in the deck. But it's actually, you know, we all need those decks, and this is my second favorite image. I just wanted to show you guys those. We all need those reminders, and we all need that energy that's very, that is confronting, and that's very honest and upfront. You know, it's not something that we maybe need all the time, but it is something that is necessary, and this is one of those decks for me. So it's pretty much in constant rotation. It stays up here in my workspace because I use it all day during readings. So there is that. The next deck that I've been using a lot, which this is really interesting because I had this deck, oh my gosh, I think Vincent was like not even 3 years old the first time I got this deck. And I really didn't use it. I loved Victoria Francis's artwork. This is a Victoria Francis Oracle card deck. But when I first purchased this deck, I really just couldn't get the right feel for her. Like, she just didn't stick around in a way that I really like found her voice and was able to read with her. So when I moved to Portland, I gifted her. There's the backings of this card, of this Oracle deck, excuse me. I gifted her to someone else to use because I just really wasn't able to connect with her. The guidebook is not the clearest, and it's not the most, I don't want to, you know, I don't know what went into the making of the guidebook for them. It's basically a little white book. I mean, it's a Scarabeo deck, so we kind of know what we're getting there. But the guidebook, in my opinion, really didn't take me anywhere. It didn't really help me get to know the deck any better. So I didn't even think about this deck for a long time. And then recently, I think a couple months ago, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw that someone was using the deck. And one of the images, I mean, I love this artist. I love her artwork. You know, it's very gothic and beautiful. And I saw one of the images laid out on someone's altar in the cards, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to try working with her again. So I purchased her, on Amazon, and I am really, really loving her this time around. I'm just in a different space. I mean, it's been years, and I've grown and changed as a person too, and I think I'm able to pick up her personality a little bit more, which she was pretty quiet, to start. Even this time around, she wasn't the loudest of my decks, and she sat on the altar for a while before I really started to get to know her. But this time around, yes, she is quiet, but it's a lot easier for me to get into the messages and really feel what the card is trying to share in a reading. And so I've been using this for personal daily draws, and I've really, really enjoyed it. It's a very lovely deck, but like I said, it's a slow burn. So you're not gonna, or I should say, you're not necessarily going to just pull this deck out and connect with it right away and not have to do some work first. It's a quiet sleeper deck, and then once she really starts talking, she definitely does. And I will say that still, at this point in time, while I am referencing the guidebook to get comfortable with the card meanings again, I'm not really, the guidebook is still not the end-all be-all for me with this deck. It's much more about what my intuition picks up as I am connecting with the imagery. So I'm not using this deck as a clarifier at this time. I'm purely just using this deck as a daily draw for myself to journal with. But this one I'm really, really enjoying this time around, and I'm glad that I repurchased it. So that's Victoria Francis Oracle. And, well, I'm sure you guys aren't going to be surprised to see this, but the Darkwood Tarot, big surprise. This is like one of my, this should be on my every single video list as well, that I do like this. I love Abigail Larson's artwork, and this deck has just, oh, this was a gift from a lovely tarot friend as well, and I can't thank her enough too. I just have gotten so much out of this deck. I love reading for others with her. I love reading for myself with her. It's different and unique, but it still follows traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery for the most part, so you can be new to tarot and read with her. It's just such a joy to work with. I have edged this deck in black myself using a Sharpie, so if you do purchase the deck, it's not going to come with the black edging, just so that you know. I don't want to mislead anyone with that. It was totally worth spending the time to do. Just put a little documentary on Netflix or something and edge your deck while you're doing that. It's nice. But this deck is really good. I have found to be very conducive for shadow work, and also looking at uncomfortable areas for ourselves, or even just reaching an understanding of the whole story. I think this deck really, really serves that purpose very well. So that is the Darkwood Tarot. I'm actually going to show this one first. The other deck I've been using a great deal is Morgan Greer. I know, if you've been with me since the beginning, I really didn't like Morgan Greer at first. The only thing I liked about this deck was the backing. And it's very 70s. And it's one of like the root fundamental tarot decks, so it gets referenced a lot in books. And, you know, the imagery is pretty popular. So, you know, it took me a long time. I had it and I gifted it, and then I started seeing some, I was watching a reading or something, and someone was using it a while back now. And I was like, oh, I like that deck. I think I need to give it another chance. I like some of the imagery. It's the colors that stick with you because it's very saturated, while also being very like yellow based in tonality. So it kind of sticks with you even after you work with the imagery. And it's so easy to read with, and it's so accessible. So at times when I'm feeling maybe pushed to my limit, or absolutely exhausted, or just like I don't have much energy to give to myself, but I want to offer myself something, this is one of those decks where even when I'm in that space, I can still get something really powerful out of the deck itself, and feel comforted and connected to my guides as well. So this is one of those decks. And this Eight of Cups always is in my mind when I think of the Eight of Cups. It's just such a quintessential Eight of Cups image, right? But this deck is beautiful, especially if you're just starting with tarot, if you're drawn to that kind of 70s feel in color saturation and artwork, then the Morgan Greer Tarot is where it's at for you. I don't use her all the time, but again, when I'm in that headspace and I go to her, she never, ever disappoints. And then my number one, hold on guys, I just need to take a sip of tea. My number one most used deck right now is actually the True Black Tarot. This was also a gift from a friend, and can you guys catch that reflection? Yeah, there you go. I'm sure you've all seen this deck by now. Oh, I love this deck so much. I could just cry. And right now, for where I'm at, this deck is just perfect. It's not oversaturated with color, unlike Morgan Greer. The palette, that's a very structured, finite palette, color palette, is soothing for me right now. This deck, I believe I have a review on the channel. If not, I'll make sure to post one, but I feel like I've got a review for this. This deck tells the truth, and she's very bougie, but she does it in such a way that almost takes the sting out of it. I love this image of the devil. Isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? And the imagery and the way that it's embossed and how things are worked, this deck really requires you to kind of slow down and just sit with her. And so I've been using her personally for everyday draws, along with the Victoria Francis Oracle, for well over a month and a half now. And yeah, I really love this deck so much. I love it more and more as time is going by, to the point that I'm considering purchasing a second edition, a second copy, so that, you know, if she starts to go, I can still have a backup. Like, I have 3 copies of Tarot of Vampires just in case, like I'm that person. So this is one of those decks where it's like, you know what, I think I should probably repurchase just to make sure that I'm good to go. I love this Three of Cups image. It's such a beautiful, beautiful deck. And the cardstock is my favorite cardstock in the whole world. There's like nothing better. I will say this to you, if you're considering purchasing this deck, it can be bulky and difficult to shuffle, so just know that, especially if you have smaller hands. I have larger hands, so it's not really an issue for me, but if you have smaller hands, etc., then you may find this a little bit difficult to shuffle with. But this deck has just been like such a balm to my soul. It's been so loving and compassionate, but very honest, and really encouraging me to dedicate and give myself some time for myself every morning, to just connect in with, you know, higher self, guides, whatever you want to call that energy, and my deity, and make sure that I'm, you know, honoring myself and my journey and my path. And so this deck has been really, really beautiful for that. So that's my list, guys. As you know, the Isis Oracle and Tarot of Vampires are always on heavy rotation here, but I'm not including them in this list because I've actually really, really been using the True Black and the Victoria Francis like every single day, along with the Le Vampire and Alice the Wonderland. So those are like, this list has really been the decks that I've been going back to again and again and again, almost more from a personal perspective, you know, personal journey, personal awareness, personal growth perspective. So that's my list, guys. I hope you are all doing well. If you've made it through to the end of this video, oh my gosh, congratulations, nice work. It's an honor to get to share seasonal favorites with you all, and I know that they're kind of my most requested videos, so it's an honor and a privilege to make this video for you all. So I hope you're all doing well. I am sending you, as always, so much love and many blessings. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.